Most men believe their power fades with age, but what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you thought you knew about attraction. I'm going to speak to you honestly, the way a psychologist speaks when the cameras are off and the research papers are closed. Because there is a truth about male aging and female attraction that most men never hear, and by the time they realize it, they've already wasted it. For decades, men are taught the same quiet lie, that youth is their only currency, that once the gray hair arrives, once the years begin to show in the mirror, the game is over. Society repeats it so often that men start believing it long before it's even true. But female psychology doesn't work the way men think it does. In fact, for many women, a man in his 60s can be far more compelling than the man he was at 30. Not because of money, not because of status, but because of something far more powerful, something most men never learn how to develop. You see, attraction for women is rarely about raw appearance alone. It's about emotional gravity, the psychological weight a man carries when he enters a room. And younger men usually haven't built it yet. Most younger men are still chasing validation. They want approval. They want to be liked. They adjust themselves constantly, changing their behavior, their opinions, even their identity, just to stay attractive in someone else's eyes. Women feel that instantly. A man who needs approval cannot create emotional safety. And emotional safety is the hidden trigger that controls a large part of female attraction. Now compare that with the man who has lived long enough to stop performing. A man who no longer bends himself into shapes just to impress someone. A man who knows who he is when the room is silent. When a man reaches that point, something shifts in how women perceive him. His words slow down, his reactions become measured, his presence stops trying to prove something. And that calm presence signals something powerful to the female mind. Stability. Not the boring kind of stability that feels lifeless, but the kind that says this man has survived storms. A woman senses that immediately, not consciously, but emotionally. And when a man over 60 truly understands this, when he stops competing with younger men and starts embracing the psychological strength that age brings, something surprising happens. Women lean closer. They listen more carefully. They start feeling something many younger men never trigger: curiosity. Because the rarest thing in modern dating isn't youth anymore. It's depth. And depth is built through time, mistakes, lessons, and the quiet confidence that forms when a man stops chasing attention and starts living with intention. But here is the painful part. Most men reach 60 with decades of experience, yet still carry the same insecurity they had at 30. They still chase approval. They still try to impress. They still think attraction is about proving their worth. And that is exactly why so many men unknowingly waste the most powerful stage of their lives. Because the moment a man realizes that attraction grows stronger when he stops trying to manufacture it, everything changes. And very few men ever discover that shift. But the ones who do, they become almost impossible for women to ignore. And it has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with what age teaches, if a man is willing to learn it. One of the most attractive shifts that can happen in a man's life rarely appears in his 20s or 30s. It tends to emerge much later, often after decades of chasing goals, solving problems, and learning the quiet lessons that life forces upon him. It is the moment a man stops trying to be impressive and starts being unshakable. Most men misunderstand attraction because they think it is created by performing well. They try to say the perfect thing, act confident, follow advice that promises instant results. But performance always carries tension. It feels rehearsed, controlled, slightly anxious beneath the surface. Women sense that tension quickly. Female psychology is extremely sensitive to emotional signals. Not just what a man says, but the emotional energy behind it. When a man is trying to impress, there is a subtle pressure in his presence. It feels like he wants something from her: approval, validation, attention. And pressure quietly weakens attraction. But many men over 60 discover something powerful that younger men rarely understand. They stop needing that approval. They begin speaking more slowly, listening more carefully, and reacting with calm instead of urgency. This calm does something remarkable to the emotional atmosphere around them. It removes the invisible tension that many women experience with younger men who are constantly trying to prove themselves. Think about the difference between a man who rushes to fill silence and a man who allows silence to exist comfortably. Silence reveals confidence. When a man can pause, think, and respond without rushing to impress, he communicates something very powerful without even realizing it. He signals that his identity does not depend on how quickly someone likes him, and that emotional independence is deeply attractive. Women feel safe around a man who is comfortable with himself. Safety here does not mean predictable or dull. It means emotionally grounded. A man who does not react dramatically to small things, who does not chase validation, who does not become shaken by every shift in attention. This is where many men over 60 possess an enormous advantage. They have lived through disappointment, success, loss, rebuilding, and unexpected turns. If they allow those experiences to shape them instead of hardening them, they develop something younger men cannot easily imitate: perspective. Perspective changes how a man interacts with the world. He becomes less reactive, more observant, more thoughtful with his energy. And when a woman interacts with a man who carries that quiet perspective, she feels something rare in modern dating. She feels calm curiosity instead of pressure. This is why some older men seem to attract attention without chasing it. Their presence feels stable, patient, and emotionally controlled. It is not about dominating the room. It is about not needing the room to approve of you. And when a woman senses that kind of grounded energy, something inside her psychology becomes interested. Not because the man is trying to attract her, but because he seems to exist comfortably without trying. Ironically, that is exactly what makes him intriguing. But here is the truth most men miss. Age alone does not create this effect. Some men reach 60 and still carry the same restless need for validation they had decades earlier. They try to compete with younger men, copying behavior that does not match their life experience. And women feel that mismatch immediately. The men who become quietly magnetic later in life are the ones who embrace the strength that maturity provides instead of running from it. Because maturity, when expressed with calm confidence, creates a presence that younger men are still years away from understanding. And when that presence appears, women notice. There is another truth about attraction that many men never hear, and it becomes especially powerful after 60. Women are not only drawn to excitement, they are drawn to emotional certainty. Younger men often bring intensity into relationships. They bring passion, ambition, fast energy. But that same intensity can also create unpredictability. Emotional highs followed by confusion, attention followed by distance. Many women experience this pattern so often that they become quietly exhausted by it. Over time, something interesting happens in female psychology. Excitement alone stops being enough. What begins to matter more is how a man makes a woman feel over long stretches of time. Not just during a thrilling moment, but during ordinary conversations, quiet evenings, and the calm spaces where real connection grows. This is where many men over 60 unknowingly hold a rare advantage. They have lived through enough life to understand that not every moment needs to be dramatic. They are less likely to panic during emotional conversations, less likely to react impulsively when tension appears. Instead, they often respond with patience. Patience is incredibly powerful in attraction, but it is rarely talked about. When a man listens without rushing to fix everything, when he gives a woman space to express herself without becoming defensive, he creates an emotional environment that feels safe and mature. And emotional safety creates trust. Trust, in turn, opens the door to deeper attraction. Many younger men unintentionally sabotage this process. They rush to solve problems, interrupt feelings, or try to control outcomes. Their energy feels like they are constantly trying to manage the situation. But a grounded man understands something different. He understands that connection grows when people feel seen, heard, and respected. And this understanding often comes only after years of real experience with relationships, mistakes, and personal growth. A man who has learned from life carries a kind of quiet wisdom, not the loud type that lectures people, but the calm type that observes carefully before speaking. Women notice this immediately because it feels different from the reactive energy they often encounter. It feels thoughtful, it feels steady, it feels mature. And maturity, when combined with kindness and self-respect, can create a powerful form of attraction that has nothing to do with competing with younger men. In fact, the men who attract attention later in life are usually the ones who stop competing entirely. They are not trying to prove they are still young. They are not chasing trends or pretending to be someone they are not. Instead, they lean into their experience. They speak honestly. They show interest without desperation, and they maintain their own life, their own routines, their own purpose. This last part is crucial. Purpose is one of the most attractive qualities a man can carry at any age. But when a man over 60 has purpose, whether it is work, hobbies, learning, mentoring others, or building meaningful relationships, it signals vitality. Vitality does not come from age. It comes from engagement with life. A man who still explores ideas, pursues goals, and stays curious about the world communicates something powerful without saying a word. He shows that his story is still unfolding. And when a woman senses that she is meeting a man whose life still has direction, whose mind still has curiosity, whose presence carries calm strength. Something inside her psychology becomes deeply interested, because the most attractive men at any age are not the ones trying to hold on to the past. They are the ones who continue building a meaningful present. And that kind of energy never goes unnoticed. There is one final truth about men over 60 that few people talk about, yet women sense it immediately. A man who has lived long enough begins to understand what truly matters. He has watched trends rise and disappear. He has seen people chase status, approval, and temporary attention, only to realize years later that those things rarely create lasting fulfillment. When a man learns this lesson deeply, something powerful happens inside him. He becomes selective with his energy. Instead of trying to impress everyone, he begins focusing only on what genuinely adds value to his life. His friendships become more meaningful. His conversations become more intentional. His time becomes more precious. And this shift creates something extremely attractive: clarity. Clarity is rare in modern dating. Many people are still figuring out who they are, what they want, and what kind of relationships truly fit their lives. But a man who has reflected on decades of experience often knows these answers more clearly. He understands the difference between attention and connection. He understands that real attraction grows slowly through respect, shared values, and emotional presence. And because he understands this, he moves differently than men who are still chasing quick validation. His pace slows down. He observes more carefully. He invests his time where there is genuine interest instead of trying to force chemistry where it does not exist. Women notice this restraint immediately. A man who does not rush, who does not push for attention, who allows connection to develop naturally, creates a sense of intrigue. His patience signals that he values himself enough not to chase every opportunity. And self-respect is deeply magnetic. Many men never develop this quality because they spend their lives reacting to the expectations of others. They try to become what they think people want, instead of becoming comfortable with who they truly are. But a man who has reached 60 with self-awareness carries something powerful into every interaction. He carries authenticity. Authenticity cannot be faked. It shows in the way he speaks, the way he listens, and the way he treats people. Women sense when a man is comfortable in his own identity, and that comfort removes the invisible pressure that often exists in dating. Instead of trying to impress, he simply connects. Instead of performing confidence, he embodies it quietly. And this quiet confidence is often what women describe as presence. The feeling that a man is fully there in the moment, not distracted by proving himself or chasing approval. Presence creates deeper conversations. It creates trust. And over time, it creates attraction that feels natural rather than forced. This is why the idea that men lose their power with age is one of the biggest misconceptions in modern culture. In reality, many men are just beginning to understand their real strength. Not strength based on appearance, speed, or competition, but strength based on experience, emotional stability, purpose, and clarity about what truly matters in life. So here is the question I want to leave you with. When people interact with you, do they feel a man who is still chasing approval, or a man who has finally become comfortable with his own identity? Write your honest answer in the comments. And if this message gave you a new perspective, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who might need to hear this today.